Hi there, welcome to Cosmic Soul Alignment. And today we welcome back a truly extraordinary guest, Vinney Tolman. Now, after being clinically dead for over an hour, Vinney returned with vivid memories of the afterlife and a message that has inspired countless souls around the world. He is back to tell us more about the lessons, the love, and the deeper truths he carried back with him. Wisdom that can help each of us live with more purpose, clarity, and connection. So, welcome back to Cosmic Soul Alignment, Vinney. Lovely to have you.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Dawn. Thanks for having me again.
My pleasure. Okay, so Vinney, you were clinically dead for over an hour before being revived, and during that time, experienced the afterlife in a way that few ever have. Now, if anyone wishes to watch the last episode, it was season 1, episode 5. Now, you returned with vivid memories of what you saw, what you felt, and we had a great conversation about that, but I wanted to ask you back for more questions. So, since your NDE, was there a belief or a habit that you found hard to change, but ultimately had to because it conflicted with what you learned on the other side?
Yes, there's quite a few beliefs, habits, almost paradigms
Mm,
that I had to shift after the experience. One of which was I realized that my purpose in life was not to be here to judge others. And growing up in a very strict Christian household, I thought judgment was just an everyday part of, existence.
mhm,
It's almost as if growing up in my household, we would have this little mental label maker in our head, and we would meet someone, and within minutes we would quickly put a label on them in our own mind. And I didn't realize that's what I was doing, but it was, and that was one of the first things that I realized my label maker was broken. Like I couldn't do that anymore.
mhm.
I would go to put a label on someone as, shallow or sinner or um, follower, and realize I can't do that because I love the soul that's inside them, no matter what they're doing. And that form of love I had not experienced before my experience. Now, since I've had children, and so I know that love so much better now. It's very much the love of a parent, but it goes even deeper. I had to reprogram myself to not judge others, no matter what they're doing,
Mhm.
and that was a big after effect, very big.
I think we don't even realise we do it. It's very commonplace. I think everybody labels somebody else and puts them in a box for something. Um, I I do it occasionally now and catch myself. So
Hmm.
I think the first point, awareness of the fact that you're doing it, and then, actively change that round and stop it. It's a big thing. It takes time to change.
It does. It takes time, and on top of that, when we're very harsh on the outside world, we're being three times more harsh on the inside world.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in my experience, I was taught the principle of the pointed finger, that when we point our finger outward towards someone else, we're also putting equal blame to God or to heaven, but we're putting three times the blame pointed back at ourselves.
Cells.
And
Mm-hmm.
so it's one of those principles that I've tried to embody to the greatest, deepest part of my being. And it does help me. It helps me tremendously, especially in the with the work that I do of being I call myself a spirit coach.
Mm-hmm.
Not just a life coach, but like a spirit coach. And in that work, I can't be judging people's lives. I
Mm-hmm.
can't love them and judge them at the same time.
And judging someone else is really judging yourself. isn't it? Because we're all connected, we're all part of the same thing.
It
So
is, yeah.
to somebody else, we're being harsh to ourselves.
Yeah, the way that spirit always shows it to me is we are all threads
Yeah.
on the fabric of life.
Mhm.
And as we judge others, we judge self. Yeah.
Okay. In your life review, I know you said you went through one of those. Were you shown the unintended ripple effects of your choices? And if so, what was the one that mattered far more than you expected?
Well, it really amazed me at what they showed me in my life review, because I did have the life review. I got to see all the bad that I ever did, but I also got to see it from the perspective of those who received my bad actions or my bad behaviors. The hard part is for our consciousness to understand how that's possible. In what felt like a moment, I caught a glimmer, a feeling, an aspect of anything that I did that was unloving, or mean, or in a deceitful way, or a dark way, or a non-loving way. But I also got to see it from the perspective of those receiving it. And there was times where I thought I was being respectful. I thought that I was staying in the lane of respect. But what was happening was my words were being disrespectful, my actions being disrespectful and non-loving. And sometimes my cold, casual way, I was hurting others. And I now, stepping away from that, I don't go around living on eggshells either. But what I like to do is make love the core of what I do every day. What I say, what I do, even when there's harsh truths that I have to address, I want to do it in a loving way. But the big eye opener I had was that sometimes when I didn't even know I was doing good, I was actually making a good effect on others. But not because I was trying to. It's because the universe or God was putting me in a position to um, help others or sharpen others with my influence, with my existence. And then the same thing in reverse. I sometimes was learning the greatest things from people that weren't trying to teach me anything. And that's the beauty of this life. We get to learn everywhere that we are.
Yeah. And try and remember who we are.
That's the conundrum,
Mhm.
is who are we really? Are
Mhm.
are we this ego consciousness that we look at when we look in the mirror? We are not.
Mhm.
We are
It's
far
more,
greater than that. Yeah.
absolutely. Okay. Did you did you get or were you shown how free will and your soul agreements interact? Is it possible that these could be bent slightly, or are there very strict rules? Because I know we've got choice, we've got free will, but were you shown how that affects your soul contract?
So free will is always at play.
Mm.
The hard part is, our creator, our one source that created all of us, that we are all a piece of, that source knows us so well. What we experience as free will is already foretold and foreplanned. But it still doesn't negate the fact that we get to choose. We get to choose all along the way. And do the possibilities change with every choice? Absolutely. But Source knows us. Source knows us so well that every choice we're going to make, it's forecast. And it's not forecast in a way where we're not players in a play doing exactly what was planned to play. We're doing it through choice, through action, through agency. And agency is what runs this whole system.
So do you mean then that our soul agreement reflects the fact that the Creator knows we're going to bend some rules? Giant
Absolutely.
Benson wheel. Okay,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that makes sense. There you
Our
are.
creator sometimes looks at our life contract and gives us a smirk because um, our source, our creator, already knows the outcome before we begin. That's how well our source knows us. But what I love about that is where we need sharpening, we find grinding. Where we need fabrication, we find pounding and heating. And like a fine blade, through all of the outside universal work on us, we become the great tool in Source's hands, in God's hands.
Were you aware of what was in your soul contract at that time?
No, not at all.
No.
I would have been so angry because I did, they were showing me the greatest part of existence, which is our home. And if I had known my full contract, I would have seen that I was on a tourist visa. I wasn't there for long. I was only there for the 3 days that I was in a coma. And if I'd known that, I probably would have been a little upset. No, I'd be a lot upset because it was such an amazing place. It is such an amazing place.
Yeah.
But to tell you the truth, even if I'd known I was going to be forced to come back here, I still would have loved every second of it. I may have loved it even more. I don't know if that's possible because I loved it to the highest level of every part of my being. But I sure loved our home. I yearn for it sometimes, and I try to stop myself from yearning for it by saying, "Hey, make this place that place. Make the now like heaven there."
Like heaven on
And
earth.
yeah,
Mhm.
like heaven on earth. Yeah. Do it with my actions, with my beliefs, with my caring for those around me, for my environment. Yeah.
That's the way we're meant to live, isn't it?
It is.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So was there anything then, were there any realities or beings or any kind of layers that you were told you couldn't talk about?
Yeah. There, for the longest time, I wasn't allowed to talk about what I saw coming back into my body. And only in the last 2 years have I been able to actually start talking about it. And it wasn't that God said, "Hey, you can't talk about this." But what I could feel is that something is so sacrosanct, something is so sacred that it can't just be openly shared about until the world is ready. And um, there were certain signs and symbols that I was given as understandings that the world would be ready. And once I saw those signs and symbols, I could start talking about it. It's not anything earth shattering, but in a way it is. And it's a map, essentially a map of how we get from point A to point B. Point A is the now, our current time on Earth.
Mhm.
The point B is the future Earth. I'm going to call it New Earth because truly that's what it's like. It's a whole nother place.
Mm.
It looks very different than our current Earth, but yet there's some of us there. We're having a great time, and we are at one with the universal fabric there. We're not trying to fight it with our egos and be this individualized thread. We are very much unified in with each other and working together with Mother Gaia, Mother Earth.
Very integrated. So there'll be
Yes.
no war, no politics.
Yeah, there'll still be war, but it will be as if it exists in a lower dimension on the new Earth. Yeah.
Right.
But
Okay.
it'll
It's
just be
interesting.
little wars, no big ones. Yeah.
Yeah, just little squabbles.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
I call them survival squamishes. That's what it
Survival
feels like.
skirmishes. I like
Yeah.
that. Okay. I'm looking forward to the new Earth, I have to say. Very much looking forward to it. So many people that have had near-death experiences, they describe like a void, like an emptiness, or a silence before they talk about, the unconditional love feeling. Did you experience anything like the void, and what was its purpose, if you know?
Well, to me, the void, if there is a void, it's the process of exiting our earthly experience and going back up to who we really are. And that process does feel, it actually feels amazing, by the way. Almost, I just got back from the International Association of Near-Death Studies. We just had our conference in Chicago. Just literally got back yesterday. And what most of the people who have had these near-death experiences or after-death experiences, the first thing we notice as soon as we are dead is that it feels amazing. So in that process of leaving consciousness here and going to higher consciousness or to our home, we go through the void, and that void is just full of energy. And it's not necessarily an energy that is good or bad. It's just energy, but you
Mhm.
can feel it. You can feel it. You feel energized. I describe it in my experience as feeling very cool, but also warm, uh, which that's hard to understand in our body. But anyone who I describe it to that has been there, they're like, yeah, it does feel very, very cold, like electrical cold or electrifying cold, but also very warm. And I think the warmth feeling is because you're moving towards source. Yeah.
So did you feel like lighter, maybe a sense of relief, maybe unburdened, you're not carrying these emotional burdens anymore?
Well, this happened to me when I was 25 years old. I was an amateur bodybuilder and a construction worker. I was building homes, and I felt like pain got turned off in my body. And that was the first thing I noticed is, wow, this feels really amazing. I thought that maybe it was that drink that I drank. I thought maybe it was something else, but it felt absolutely amazing. That was the first thing I noticed, that pain was turned off. And that's something also uniform with other experiencers that have actually died. They don't have like a hellish experience. They have just no pain anymore. It just turns off. From the second they leave their body, it turns off.
And
And it does
peace.
feels weightless.
Yeah.
Feels light, weightless, feels as if your consciousness is like the mouse on a computer. Feels like it can just go anywhere,
Hmm.
anywhere, any place. Yeah.
That's how I feel when I have an out of body experience, just immediately light and vibrant, you know,
Yeah.
high vibrational. Yeah, absolutely. So I understand what you're saying, although I've not had that experience. I know what you're talking about there.
Well, I've
So,
done. I led a little luncheon at the Ions experience where we all did a little out of body visualization,
mm,
and everyone afterwards commented that, wow, it feels like the room is lighter. It feels like everything is lighter after we got back and finished. And what a great, little trailer. What a great little baby example for us to know what is out there in the universe for us.
mhm. Yeah, it's fabulous. It is fabulous. Were you shown anything about humor or creativity or, the importance of play?
Yes.
Hmm.
So there's a reason why the most playful of all of our species are the children, the young ones, the babies. is when someone comes here as a baby, part of our soul is still leaving the unified consciousness. It's still leaving what we would call heaven or home. And it's gradually coming into a seated or anchored experience here. But in that process, um, there's this lightheartedness, this loving, playful way. And just 2 minutes before we began, I was playing and tickling my son, who's 4 years old, and he's always looking for the next adventure. Sometimes it's a rock he found, sometimes it's a stick he found, sometimes it's a little game on an iPad, but he is finding adventure in everything, including simply our couch. That's the playfulness of it, is when our children are still feeling that attachment to that higher place, they're very playful. And I learned from my experience that as we remember who we really are, it's easier to be playful. It's easier to allow our ego construct to allow us to play. And play is so important. Laughter is so important. I've had spirit come through sessions in what I do for a living, where the prescription for the person is you need 30 minutes of laughter every day. So you figure out where you laugh the most, and figure out 4 or 5 of those options, and choose one of those every single day for 20, 30 minutes. And someone who followed that felt completely changed after only 1 week of doing it. So laughter is a very big part of what we're here to do. And it's also an instant way to raise our frequency, to raise our love energy.
Yeah, it
So
does exactly that.
play and laughter is where it's so important. Also, most of your artists, most of your songwriters, most of your creators, those who create things here, they typically have their highest performance of creation when they're in a sense of play.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important. And I like oracle cards. So some mornings I'll have a shuffle and I'll pull some oracle cards. I would say 50% of the time the play cards come up.
They do.
So I need to start taking their advice and start doing a bit more play. Absolutely. Because you feel so much lighter once you've had a good belly laugh, even if it's a comedy on the TV, it can lift your spirits.
Absolutely. And with me, I love angel cards. I love crystal cards. I love crystals. I love angels. So, anything that I can embrace and play with, I do. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Did you witness how collective emotions like, fear, hope, or compassion shape Earth events? And if so, what moves the needle the most?
The weird thing is, fear is one of the strongest movements on Earth,
Mm.
and it is paralyzing to us. Here's the weird thing that I've noticed over the years. I've noticed this since my experience, and I've also noticed it because of my experience, that when we are in a state of fear, we will choose the options that we're given and not come up with our own options. But when we're in a state of love, in a state of play, we come up with our own options, our own solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a stratified, a strategy in certain leaderships in the world to continually keep their populace in a state of fear, so that they only choose the options on the table and they cannot even perceive the better options that are sitting, behind them and not on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, they can't think out the box for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And how important it is that we do that.
Okay. Were you given any guidance on how to handle that when the fear comes
Yeah,
up?
they've told me, Spirit told me right off the bat, when I'm in a state of fear, I need to make sure that I remove myself from that state before I make important decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I jokingly get this example. The worst time to put on your seatbelt is right before the car accident,
Yes.
right? It's better to put it on long before, or embrace the choice of not putting it on.
Mm.
But frantically trying to grab it and put it on right as a car accident is happening, it's too late. So we've got to make the best decisions we can long before the fearful situation comes about. And that's where spirit can help us quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I've had I had a session once. This was about 5 years ago, where spirit came through very strong with a client and said, um, as me being an intuitive coach for them, spirit came through really strong and said, "Hey, it's time. You need to put away every penny you've got for just 6 months. At the end of 6 months, set that aside, but let that be just some type of safety mechanism for you." And as soon as they got to the end of 6 months, they had a hardship for the family, but spirit had warned them long before in a loving way. And so they were already prepared. It didn't hurt them. It didn't, and in fact, this particular client said it was harder to save the money than to live through the process of the hardship they were going through.
Mm-hmm.
So it made it so much easier. It allowed the family to stay bonded to each other even in the hardship period. And then they made it through the hardship period. The dad, he got a new job, and everything was great. But if they had kept going the way they were going, it would have definitely put a lot of strain on the family and possibly on their relationship with each other. So, when we can be in that sense of play, we're allowing ourselves a connection to spirit, which is very, very high frequency in the sense of play. And the higher the frequency, the better the guidance. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree 100% with that. So what does healing look like from the soul's vantage point, especially for traumatic experience, that we can't fix in one lifetime?
Well, the best way to describe it is a good paintbrush. It's always got some residue on the brush.
Mm.
And what that does is it does make the future work of that paintbrush imperfect, but it makes it perfectly imperfect. The way that the artist is lovingly using that brush, it really accentuates the craft of the painting, the artwork, because of that brush. I have a cousin who painted this picture and this picture, and uh, he's got some favorite brushes, and they're not the perfect brushes. They're not the brushes that are perfectly clean.
Mm-hmm.
They've got a lot of residue, a lot of wear on them,
Yeah.
but almost like a pen that writes an inspired work. That brush, with all of its wear, with all of its use, it's taken on its own energy. And that's like us. These bodies, they're not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And especially how we treat them, they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And we tend to take on some trauma. Now
Mm-hmm.
the body itself is going to store that trauma until we're ready to release it. And
Mm-hmm.
some of us will live and then die and not release those traumas.
Yeah.
And what we do is we pass those traumas on to our children if we have children. And there's scientific evidence to prove that those traumas are inherited. Um, on top of the fact that I know that it happens every day, I help people remove trauma from themselves. Now, I don't do it for them. I show them how to do it.
How to do it.
And really what it's about is finding where the body is saying, help me, putting some attention and some energy there, and tracking down what trauma is being stored in that part of the body and releasing it, allowing the body a pathway or a pathology to let it go, to release it. And when we do it, I've done this with clients where we're releasing trauma from mom, and all of a sudden her adult children all start changing. All of them. Without her telling them, any of them, about the changes, the releases, and the healing that she's done. And this is very, very real. I have watched someone who was deathly allergic to macadamia nuts and to pineapple. And right before she was going to go on a trip to Hawaii, she sought me and looked me up and said, "Hey, Vinney, can you help me with this?" And I said, "I can help you with this." And so I did. We worked together. We were able to track it down to a very specific trauma in her life, which was her ultimate trauma, her heaviest trauma of her entire life. And we allowed her body to feel the feelings that she had been avoiding so many years before.
Yeah.
And once her body was allowed to process those feelings, guess what she could eat? Pineapple and macadamia. And just in time, because she went to Hawaii. So she was doing all that in preparation to go to Hawaii on a trip. She wanted to eat the pineapple she ate as a girl, as a young woman there. And wanted to eat one of her favorite candies, which was the chocolate macadamia nuts, growing up. And what's neat about it is I like using that as an example. There's thousands of other examples that I've experienced now, but we are very, very complex. The soul and the body coming together in the mind, that is a very complex relationship. And in that relationship, there is a substantial interweaving between the etherical and the physical. And it's in that process we're storing emotions that we don't want to feel. And you'd be surprised how many chronic conditions, chronic issues can be resolved by finding the trauma that is stored inside them and allowing yourself to release it. Yeah.
Very important. I know. I talk about that a lot because I think we're raised to believe, like boys don't cry, just keep it in, don't show your emotions. It's weak to show your emotions, when it's just we're storing it in and it's acting like the pressure is building up inside until we've got to erupt like a volcano or something seriously, physically wrong manifests in the body because of these blocked emotions.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we don't realize it's a problem until our body starts screaming.
Yeah.
And then once it starts screaming, we go to the medical system and start putting medicine in our bodies, but it's not actually fixing things. It's only fixing symptoms and not issues. Yeah.
It is. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a stab wound, isn't it? It's not going to do any good whatsoever.
Well, a hero of mine, who's also a friend of mine, is Dr. Brad Nelson. He's the one who created the emotion code.
Body code, I've got his.
And what's neat is, in his process of healing, he's a doctor, and he was helping people through the journey of healing, and finding that specific maladies of the body were lining up with specific traumas in a person's life. And he said there's got to be a pattern. His background was coding, computer coding. And so he figured, there's got to be a code in the body. And so he cracked it. He cracked the emotion code. He cracked the body code. And his work continues. His work inspired me to do what I'm doing on a daily basis. I'm so grateful to God for bringing that man into this world, and the mother that brought him in, because it took a really great mom, his mom, to make him the great man that he is. So I'm
Yeah.
very grateful for that whole process, and he has inspired all the work that I do every single day. He is his work inspired me to create my system of going and doing what's called master coding,
Hmm.
and releasing the master codes that are holding us into our issues, our symptoms, and our problems.
Yeah. Yep. I like his works as well, I must admit. Yep.
Yeah,
So yeah,
very inspiring.
pay attention to the body, and we're supposed to feel emotions. We're human beings. We are emotional beings. We're supposed to experience them. What we're not supposed to do is hold on to them. We're supposed to sit with it, experience it, feel it, acknowledge it, let it go.
Yeah, well, it's we don't realize that everything in our body is about flow and not about storage.
Yeah.
Everywhere in your body that you have storage, you have unhealthy behaviors. Everywhere that you have in your body that is flow is healthy behaviors and healthy actions. Yeah.
Yeah. Very well said. Since returning, have you ever been corrected? Have you received like a course correction? A bit like a
Yeah.
sort of tap
Every
on the
day.
shoulder. You're
Every
going the
day.
wrong direction. Yeah, can you give us some examples?
I have so many. Um, so right after I had my experience, I was living in Wyoming. I was still in construction. I was leaving my house at 3:45 a.m. every morning to drive for 2 hours. Well, to drive, long story, drive one direction for 30 minutes, the other direction for 30 minutes, and then drive 2 hours. And that whole process, it was tiring on the body. You just didn't want to be, getting up that early. Your body doesn't want to. Even long term, you just don't want to. So I was waking up very early. I was in this process of going to Jackson Hole, Wyoming from Afton, Wyoming. And in the middle of the winter, that is a 2 hour drive. And we're riding right along up the Snake River Canyon, and I get this very strong feeling. You need to slow down. Now, it was midwinter. The roads are very icy. We were actually driving on ice because, up there it gets so cold the
Yeah,
roads become ice for the
yeah.
whole season. And so I did. I slowed down from my normal about 50 miles an hour down to about 40 miles an hour. And then I heard it again, slow down.
Down.
And I went from 40 down to 30. And I heard it again, but this time I heard slow down now and stop. And so I did. I slowed, gradually, because with those icy roads, you can't just slam the brakes.
Yeah.
I slowed gradually down, and the whole canyon was full of fog. So even to drive through this canyon, you could only see about 5 feet, 10 feet in front of you. And right as I got to a complete stop, another car was coming the other direction, and their lights were shining through that fog, and it looked like a big pile of sticks in front of us.
Right.
Come to find out, that big pile of sticks was an entire herd of elk.
Oh, goodness.
And these elk, they had got stuck on the road. They couldn't go down because it was a straight drop off down to the river. And so they were actually walking on the road. And we would have been the first car to come up on them. And it would have I know for a fact that it
Yeah.
would have killed both me and my passenger, and probably quite a few elk in there too. But it was the first time that spirit course corrected me. And I've had countless other times exactly like this, where spirit comes in, speaks very strong, and they course correct me. Even one time I was about to get on a flight, and last minute I got the message, nope, change this flight. I didn't do any research on what happened to the original flight, but I know that I was on the right flight, when I went on my flight. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where spirit does constantly course correct me,
Mm-hmm.
even to a point where I have my routine and they tell me it's time to leave your routine today. This is what you're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it.
You're very
And
trusting.
I have to be.
Yeah.
I figure I'm here on extra credit. I'm here on extra time. And if I don't follow them, I'm wasting my time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. That's super. It's lovely that
Even,
you get the guidance and the message come through so strong. It really is.
well, what's really neat is the more you listen to it, it starts really small, but the more you listen to it, the louder it gets.
Mm-hmm.
And the louder it gets, the more frequent you hear it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like learning to listen to a radio song in a noisy room. If you can track your ear to hear for that song that's playing very quietly, it's almost as if your brain will turn up the volume, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's what our soul does as we get used to listening to spirit. One of my favorite exercises is wake up in the morning and ask God, ask universe, ask source, whatever words you like to use. Ask the higher deity who needs me to reach out to them today. That's it. Super simple. Who needs me to make contact with them today?
Mm-hmm.
And be hyper aware of the first name, the first image, the first face that pops into your head as soon as you ask that. And do something to reach out to them that day. And you'll be surprised after 1 week of doing this, you'll realize that, wow, I'm being a tool in God's hands.
Mm-hmm.
I am making contact with those who need me, and better yet, I am making contact with my other fellow beings, and together we're bridging that connection with our Creator.
Yeah.
And
Strengthening the connection. Mm-hmm.
it's a beautiful process. It's like the letter A. Source is at the top. You're down here as one of the legs, and as you build that connection to the other leg gets closer to source as well.
Hear you. Okay. How did your experience reframe the ethics of hard choices, like, telling difficult truths or setting boundaries or having to walk away?
Well, spirit always laughs at me in a loving way, and I always hear this sentence: "It's not that complicated." We complicate things so much. We think there's only one finite answer, only one correct answer for everything. And Spirit has always said, no, there's infinite numbers of correct answers, but there's also infinite numbers of wrong answers. But Spirit's funny. They're like, but choose one, but be willing to accept the price you pay for the wrong answer, for the wrong solution, just as much as you seek benefit for choosing the right answer, the right solution.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? Like, don't make a mistake you know is a mistake and be upset that you have to pay a price.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Understood. I think. I'll mull it over a little while, but yeah. Okay, from what you experienced, what is the most common misconception that spiritual seekers have about purpose? And what's the gentler truth underneath it?
Well, people think they're here to navigate the exact right path for them. But really, what we're here to do is to be an expression of God's love.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Come here, love what you're doing, and love what you're doing now. Like, don't fret about what you were doing yesterday. Until you can find a time machine, you need to leave the past in the past and focus on the greatest gift we have, and that's the present. That's why it's a
Mm-hmm.
gift. It's a
Yeah.
present. Is when we can focus on the present, we can really enjoy things. The other day, I had to wait for something for 2 hours, and I'm a pretty busy guy. I don't get to just sit there and do nothing for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat there and I thought, wow, I get to do a meditation for 2 hours. That's really neat. So I just sat there. I went, did my deep breathing. I went within. I went up into the etherical. I was, looking around the room. I was speaking to spirit, having a great time. And before I knew it, that 2 hours was over. And now I was thinking, man, I need to do more of these 2 hour breaks where I can't do anything, it's one of those things where if we enjoy the gift of the present, we're going to get more presence in
Mm-hmm.
our life. And the more presence that we get in our life, the more happiness we have. So invite heaven into your life by capitalizing on your present moments. Don't make a moment pass without depositing some of your love into that space, some of your love energy. Um, a little example was this morning, my son, my 4-year-old, he woke up grumpy. Sometimes 4-year-olds wake up grumpy. They
They
don't
do.
always, sometimes they wake up and it's all sunshine and lollipops, right? But other days they might be a little grumpy. He woke up grumpy. He didn't want to wake up and go to school. And so I went over and I said, let's be grumpy together. Let's be grumpy together. And we frowned our faces and we made growly noises. And then before you know it, we were tickling each other and wrestling. And now he was ready to go to school.
Yeah.
Um, but I saw that, in a busy morning where I already had lots to do, I was a little behind schedule. I could have missed my present. I could have missed my gift of the presence. And the same way that I would want my father to be present for me, I want to be present for my son, even if we just need to have some grumpy time together. He needs to know that he's a present to me, that he's a
Mm-hmm.
gift to me.
Yeah.
And so I told him, I said, I'm glad I get to be grumpy with you because it's not every day we get to be grumpy together.
That's true. Well,
And it was
life's
awesome.
too short, right? Life's too
It
short.
is.
Yeah. Have fun and enjoy it. And just going back to something you said earlier, be yourself. Just
Yes.
be yourself. Be your authentic self. Do
Be
what makes you
your,
happy. Yeah.
authentic, awkward, polished, whatever you are, you be you and be the
Mm-hmm.
best version of you. That's what matters.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do. We're not here to be someone else. We're not here to be like some false version of ourselves. Just be you and be happy. Be
Yeah.
joyfully expressing your love for being you.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how happy you can be just being you.
Absolutely. 100%. Well, just like that, again, we're out of time. Can you believe it? That has flown by like it did the
Yeah.
last time. Thank you for returning and sharing even deeper truths, from that extraordinary journey that you had. Your reminder that love and clarity and purpose are always within reach. It gives us hope to live more consciously each day.
Hmm.
So may we carry these insights into our own lives and make choices that ripple with the compassion and light that you talk about. So I want to say thank you so much to you.
Yeah.
And
Thank
hopefully
you.
at some point we'll have you back again. It was a wonderful conversation.
That sounds amazing. Thanks so much, Don. Be,
Thank you.
be everyone listening, be the light that the world needs because we all need each other.
Absolutely. Thank you, sweetheart. You take care.
Thank you, Don.
Bye now.